You can spend your whole life loving the same woman and still never fully understand what she feels in your most intimate moments together. Not because you don't care, and not because you're doing something wrong. The truth is, most men were taught to focus on performance. Very few were ever taught to understand what a woman's body and mind actually need before intimacy even begins. That gap changes everything. A lot of men think intimacy starts at one specific moment. But for many women, it starts much earlier. It begins with feeling safe, feeling relaxed, feeling wanted for who they are, not just for what happens next. Those things aren't extras. They're part of the experience. The surprising part is that this conversation almost never happens. Most fathers never talk about it. Schools don't teach it. Friends rarely bring it up. So many men go through life believing they're supposed to figure it out on their own. Maybe that's why so many couples care deeply about each other but still end up missing each other in the moments that matter most. Sometimes it isn't about trying harder. It's about understanding what you've never been shown before. I think this is where a lot of men get it wrong without even knowing it. Most of us grow up believing intimacy really begins at one specific moment. We think that's the starting line, but for many women, it isn't. By the time you get there, her body and her mind have already been going through a process. If that process hasn't happened, the experience won't feel the same, no matter how much you care. Take David, for example. He's been married to the same woman for over 30 years. He loved his wife, respected her, and always wanted to make her happy. But somewhere along the way, he started feeling like something was missing. They were still close, but the connection didn't feel as deep as it used to. He assumed it was just part of getting older. It wasn't. The biggest problem wasn't age. It wasn't experience either. It was understanding. Like so many men, David had spent years asking himself one question: am I ready? Am I ready? The better question was one he had never really asked before. Does she feel safe? Does she feel wanted? Is she relaxed? Is she genuinely ready? Those questions can change everything. Because when you stop thinking of intimacy as a destination and start seeing it as something that begins long before either of you touches the other, your whole perspective changes. You stop chasing the moment and start paying attention to everything that leads up to it. And that's often where the real connection begins. Here's the part most men never hear about. A woman's body doesn't suddenly become ready in a single moment. It happens step by step, and for every woman, that process can look a little different. It can even be different from one day to the next. It all starts in the brain. When she feels safe, emotionally connected, and genuinely wants to be there, her brain sends signals that it's okay to relax. That's when her parasympathetic nervous system starts doing its job. Instead of staying alert or tense, her body begins shifting into a state where closeness feels natural. From there, blood flow increases throughout the pelvic area. That extra circulation makes sensitive tissues fuller and much more responsive to touch. Her body may also begin producing natural lubrication. It's not something she has to think about. It's simply one way her body responds when the conditions are right. As arousal continues, the upper part of the vaginal canal can gently expand, creating more space and making intimacy feel more comfortable. At the same time, the pelvic floor muscles gradually begin to relax. That matters more than most people realize because those muscles naturally protect the body when it doesn't feel completely at ease. None of this happens because someone is rushing the moment. It happens because her body feels safe enough to let go, and it's important to remember that there isn't a stopwatch for any of this. Stress, hormones, age, health, medication, fatigue, and even what's been happening emotionally that day can all change how quickly her body responds. What feels easy one day may take more time the next, and that's completely normal. The biggest thing to remember is this: her body is not simply waiting. It is changing its entire sensory environment. Once you understand that, it's easier to stop focusing on speed and start paying attention to what really helps both of you feel connected. That's where a completely different experience can begin. This is where a lot of good intentions go the wrong way. Many men think moving faster will help the moment. Sometimes it's because they're excited. Sometimes, it's because they're worried they'll lose their erection if they wait too long. That's a very real concern, especially as we get older. But the strange part is that the harder you try to protect the moment by rushing it, the more pressure you create for both of you. For many women, feeling truly ready takes longer than their partner expects, and that can change from one day to the next. Stress, hormonal changes, medication, poor sleep, getting older, or even unresolved tension in the relationship can all slow that process down. There's nothing unusual about that. It's just how the body works. The mistake is assuming that time is the enemy. Most of the time, it isn't. When you rush because you're afraid the opportunity might disappear, your focus quietly shifts away from the connection itself. Instead of being present with each other, both people can end up feeling pressure. One person is trying to keep everything going. The other may still be trying to relax enough to fully enjoy the experience. That's why slowing down isn't about delaying intimacy. It's about giving both of you the chance to actually arrive in the same moment together. One lesson really stayed with me over the years. Trying to protect the moment by rushing may be the very thing that weakens it. Sometimes the strongest thing a man can do isn't moving faster. It's being patient enough to let the moment happen at its own pace. More often than not, that creates a deeper connection than speed ever could. One thing I didn't understand for a long time was that the exact same moment can feel completely different depending on whether her body is actually ready. From the outside, it may not look any different, but on the inside, it can be a completely different experience. When she's had the time she needs to relax and feel emotionally connected, intimacy often feels smoother and more comfortable. There's usually less tension and less discomfort. Instead of feeling like something that's simply happening to her, it can feel like something she's fully sharing with you. For many women, that's when physical sensation becomes more than just physical. It can feel deeper, more natural, more connected. It's not only about touch anymore. It's about feeling close to someone she trusts. Now, compare that to a moment when her body hasn't had enough time to get there. The same touch, the same movement, the same person. But it may not feel the same at all. Instead of feeling relaxed, she may still be carrying tension. Instead of feeling fully present, part of her attention may still be focused on catching up emotionally or physically. That's why two experiences that look almost identical from the outside can feel completely different to the person living them. And here's something that's easy to miss. She may feel the difference clearly, but may not always know how to explain. It may worry that explaining it will hurt her partner. That doesn't mean anything is wrong with the relationship. Sometimes people simply don't have the words for what they're feeling. Other times they stay quiet because they don't want the person they love to think they've done something wrong. The more I learned about this, the more I realized that real intimacy isn't about reaching a certain moment as quickly as possible. It's about creating the kind of experience where both people feel comfortable, understood, and genuinely connected from beginning to end. One thing I've come to understand is that intimacy isn't just about what happens physically. A lot is happening emotionally too. You've probably heard people talk about oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. While everyone's experience is different, many people associate moments of genuine closeness with feelings of trust, comfort, and emotional connection. That's why the same physical experience can feel completely different depending on how connected two people feel in that moment. And that's where being present really matters. Not because it's some secret technique, not because it guarantees a certain outcome, but because it changes the emotional atmosphere between the two of you. Presence is not a performance trick. It changes the emotional conditions of the entire encounter. Being present is actually pretty simple. It means you're not rushing to the next step. You're paying attention instead of getting lost in your own worries. You're listening when she speaks, and you're also noticing when she doesn't. It means checking in, communicating openly, and never assuming that silence automatically means everything is okay. It also means letting go of the idea that the whole experience depends on keeping an erection or reaching orgasm as quickly as possible. Those things can matter, but they shouldn't become the only thing you're focused on. The moments people remember most usually aren't the ones that felt perfect. They're the ones where they felt understood, respected, and genuinely cared for. In the end, that's what creates a stronger connection. not trying harder, just being there, paying attention, and making sure the experience belongs to both of you, not just one person. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that intimacy isn't only about being close physically. It's also about trust. When someone opens themselves to you in such a personal way, they're doing more than sharing a moment. They're choosing to be vulnerable. And that kind of openness doesn't happen automatically just because you've been together for a long time. A lot of us assume that once you've been married for years, trust takes care of itself. But real trust doesn't work that way. It isn't something you build once and keep forever. It's something that's created again, one moment at a time. Physical openness requires moment-to-moment trust, not merely the assumption that a long relationship automatically guarantees comfort. Even after decades together, there are days when your partner may feel more relaxed and connected, and days when life, stress, health, or emotions make that harder. That's normal. It doesn't mean love is gone. It simply means people aren't the same every single day. Looking back, I think one of the biggest lessons is this: never assume she's ready just because you've shared thousands of moments before. Stay curious, stay kind, keep listening. That's how trust keeps growing, even after all those years. If you forget everything else we've talked about today, remember these 4 things. Don't rush, don't assume, keep communicating, and pay attention to each other's experience, not just your own. You don't need to memorize medical terms or understand every biological detail. What matters is understanding the person beside you a little better than you did yesterday. Because real intimacy isn't built on perfect timing or perfect performance. It's built on patience, trust, respect, and the willingness to keep learning about each other, no matter how long you've been together. This is not about becoming a perfect partner overnight. It is about becoming more aware than you were yesterday. If this conversation helped you see intimacy in a more honest and human way, subscribe to Hidden Organ Secrets for more discussions like this. And before you go, I'd really like to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys many fidance. What's one thing you wish someone had explained to you years ago? Leave it in the comments. Your experience might help someone else understand the person they love a little better.